Since the Berlin revision of the Stanstofano Treaty, Bulgarian nationalists aspired to regain Macedonia to be part of Bulgaria. The Internal Macedonian Revolution Organization, or the IMRO, or the in Bulgarian, which sounds like Russian, but it is not Russian, okay? It is roughly translated as Revolutionaskana Organizationaska, or yes, it's stereotypical, but it is what it is, okay? Or the Macedonian Revolutionary Organization, the internal one, right? The self-style RMIO revolutionary activists using terror as the main tool for political propaganda threw the Macedonian population into a serious state of violence for at least 2 decades until World War I, where they would get more violent. The region became the focus of rivalry among the Balkan states and the European diplomacy and democracies, especially with Greece having claim and Bulgaria having claim, Serbia having claim. So this was the Tinder Box of Europe. As a result of the Balkan Wars of 1912 to 1913, however, Macedonia was divided among Serbia, Vardar Valley, Greece, Aegean Coast, and Bulgaria, the Pornir region. The Serbian part turned out to be the most unstable, as the overwhelming majority of the population were Slavs, Macedonians, Albanians, and even some Turks, were all resentful of Serbian rule, as they went from one colonial ruler, the Turks, to another, the Serbs. The military government introduced by Belgrade introduced harsh measures to quell the unrest, but it was to little avail, as the fire for Macedonian independence grew stronger, as they should know that the Ottomans did this same thing. Serbia, what are you doing? The military government introduced harsh measures to quell the unrest, but to little avail, as the Ottomans tried to quell Serbian resistance, and to little avail, which grew and sparked the fire of nationalism even more. Serbia, I know you've been under Ottoman rule for a long time, but you gotta be self-aware and realize that this is how you became a nation state too. One of the reasons laid in the IMRO's pursuit and the unified and the autonomous Macedonia. During the late summer of 1913, IMRO insurgents and instigators led local uprisings in Taravash, or Dor and Debar. The events had a joint Muslim-Bulgarian characteristics, as improvised by the effectiveness, not improvised explosives, although, yeah. The IMRO decided to work with the Turks and even the Albanians in the hope to revise the Bucharest Treaty that had endorsed the division of Macedonia as the Poland of the Balkans. When the First World War broke out in July 1914, the IMRO increased the sabotage against the Serbian rule, culminating in the Borlandovor affair on the 2nd of April 1915, a large-scale guerrilla attack against the Serbian positions orchestrated by the IMRO and Turkish bands, as by now the Turks were in World War I and actually helped to invade Serbia and Romania. So the IMRO's efforts materialized when Bulgaria entered the war on the 25th of August 1915. The Bulgarian First Army advanced into the Toramak region, casting the Serbians towards Kosovo, while the Second Army conquered the Vardar region, effectively cutting off the Serbians from their allies in the Aegean Peninsula, or the Greeks and the Salonika front. The German hesitation, however, to let the Bulgarians chase the Entente forces into Greek territory gave the Franco-British Salonika front a second chance, as they now bombed Bulgarian positions and actually halted the momentum of Bulgaria when it was still the Prussian of the Balkans. Yes. With the Macedonian front bogged down now, Bulgaria had to endure exhausting trench warfare for their 3 years to come. And the Balkans, like Gallipoli, a hope for maneuverable warfare turned into the quagmire of the Western Front. But in rocky terrain, beautiful picturesque beaches, and of course, Next to Turkey. Districts were divided into several counties, and the interior minister of Sofia appointed all the unit heads, or the warlords of the IMRO. The IMRO actively took part in the war against the Serbs, either as the 11th Macedonian Infantry Division, a total of 33,754 men, or guerrilla bands, engaging in reconnaissance and guerrilla attacks. As a guerrilla band, or engaging in reconnaissance or even mapping. As a reward, many IMRO activists were appointed to county chiefs and even administrators. The ex-activist administrators turned out to be a total incompetence at controlling civil affairs. They were cruel, they were brutal, and often unspurred their authority as a reward or as a curse for the Macedonian people. Many IMRO activists were appointed as county chiefs and even as administrators. The ex-activist administrators, most of them, not all, but a lot, turned out to be totally incompetent in controlling civil affairs. They were cruel, brutal, and often unspurred by their authority and power. Requisition for the front caused constant food shortages and even a famine in some districts. To cope with the difficulties, a rationing system was introduced, but it resulted in rampant speculation, contraband, and even a black market arose, mainly from the corruption of the local authorities. The popular discontent arose from the misrule and further intensified by the measures of Bulgarianization. The occupying regime introduced regulations and administrative routines modeled on the Bulgarian mainland model. Impositions of literary Bulgarians, especially in education and administration, incurred much resentment among the Albanians and the Turks. The tacit alliance between the IMRO, or the Europeans, and the Muslims activists were seriously undermined. In the spring of 1918, the Bulgarian defense had been seriously worn out at the Dobropol front. The ammunition, the uniforms, and the provisions were all running short, and morale was extremely low. There were also no match for the French-Serbian attacks on the Battle of Dobropole on the 15th of September 1918. The Bulgarian defense instantly collapsed, and Sofia was forced to seek an armistice on the 29th of September 1918, the first Central Power to bow to the whims. Along with the retreating Bulgarian army, former IMRO fighters and activists were evacuated the territory, as they might be tried as war criminals, or actually have mob justice on their hands. And the Serbs were more than willing to let the Macedonians in their new kingdom for Yugoslavs have their way. Thousands of refugees followed suit, reducing drastically the IMRO's resilience and even effectiveness, but of course nobody wanted to do that anymore. Although they never gave their studious, or thousands of refugees follow suit, reducing drastically the IMRO's resilience. Although they never gave up their studious or insidious plans against the Yugoslav regime, subsequent IMRO actions never really went beyond sporadic guerrilla raids and assassination attempts of high officials. And this was actually done by Tsuwana Shura from the Meiji University. So thank you, Japan. Anyway, guys, hope you enjoyed, hope you learned something. I gotta go and train, gotta get my muscles buff. So this is it, but I hope you enjoyed, hope you learned something, and I hope you, liked it. Anyway, there are some tacked on stuff, but there's nothing really else to do. So in 1925, the Greek army launched a cross-border raid to reduce the IMRO's base area, but this was ultimately stopped by the League of Nations, the only action they kind of really did, right? And the IMRO attacks were resumed. In the interwar period, the IMRO also cooperated with the Croatian Eustache. Yes, that Eustache. And their ultimate victim was Alexander I of Yugoslavia, which was assassinated in France in 1934. After the Bulgarian coup d'etat of 1934, their Petric stronghold was subjected to military crackdown by the Bulgarian army, and the IMRO was reduced to a marginal phenomenon. The organization changed its name several times on several occasions. After the fall of the communists in the region, numerous parties claimed the IMRO name and even fought in the Balkan Wars and the Yugoslav Wars of the 1990s. But the post-war Treaty of Neuilly against the Bulgarians denied Bulgaria what it was felt it shared Macedonia and Thrace homelands after the First Balkan War. After this moment, the combined Macedonian and Tripolitan revolutionary movements separated into two distinct and detached organizations: the Internal Thracian Revolutionary Organization, or the Internal Macedonian Revolution Organization. The ITO, the ITRO, and the IMRO was a revolutionary organization active in Greece and the regions of Thrace and Macedonia to the river of Strymon and Roboch mountains between 1922 to 1934. The reasons for the establishment of the ITRO was to transfer the region from Bulgaria to Greece in May 1920, so all of Macedonia would become just another province like the Macedonia in Greece. The ITRO, or the Thrace, proclaimed its goals as the unification of all the disgruntled elements of Thrace, regardless of their nationality, and to win full political independence for the region. Later, the IMRO created its own satellite organization known as the Internal Western Outland Revolutionary Organization, or in Bulgarian, Westernasht Outlandy Revolutionaska Organizationaska, I believe. Probably wrong though. Which operated the areas of Starbord and Buzgrad, ceded to Yugoslavia after the First World War and Yugoslavia became one big conglomerate thing. The IMRO began sending armed bands called the Cheche into Greece and even into Yugoslavia, or the Yugoslav Macedonia, and even into Thrace, to assassinate officials and stir up the spirit of the oppressed population, just as in 1914 and 1893. On the 23rd of March 1923, Alexander Stamboulski was favored a détente between Greece and Yugoslavia, the first détente in the world, no Cold War intended. So that Bulgaria could concentrate on its internal problems, they signed the Treaty of Nice with the Kingdom of the Serbs, Croats, and the Slovenes, and undertook the obligation to suppress the operations of the IMRO, which was carried out in Bulgarian territory. However, the same year, IMRO agents assassinated Brodeniski. No, wait, hold on. No. Stamboulski. Right, Stamboulski. The IMRO had the de facto full control of Prene Macedonia, or Pichthris district for the time, and acted as the state within a state, or the Vatican within Rome within Italy. Right, if you understand what I'm going for. Which also was a base for a hit-and-run attacks against Yugoslavia and the unofficial support for the right-wing Bulgarian government, and later for fascist Italy. Yeah, the interwar years were just as crazy as the war years, dude. Because of this, contemporary observers describe Yugoslav-Bulgarian frontier as the most fortified, yet the most easy to cross border in Europe. This was like communist-style Bulgarian access closed off to the Red Sea kind of shit, bro. But people were still getting into Bulgaria. It's so crazy, dude. In 1923 to 1924, during the apogee of the interwar military, in 1923 to 1924, during the apogee, or what I would like to call my childhood, apogee games, yes. But apogee was the calming of relations in the interwar military activity. According to the IMRO statistics, the region of Yugoslav Vardar, Macedonia operated 53 chetas, or armed bands, or guerrilla fighters. 36 of them were permanent. 36 of them which penetrated Bulgaria with no lube and no condom. 12 were located and 5 entered from Albania. The aggravated membership of the bands, which were 3,245 komatas, or guerrilla rebels, led 75 vivodaj, or the commanders, 54 sub-commanders, or the vividash, 41 secretaries, and 143 couriers. 193 couriers. 119 flights and 73 terrorist activities. Hold on. The aggregated membership of the bands were 3,245 Komnastats, or the guerrilla rebels, which led 79 Vivadosh, or the commanders, 54 sub-commanders, or the Vividash, 41 secretaries, and 193 carriers. 119 flights and 73 terrorist activities were documented. Serbian casualties were 304 army and grenadier officers and soldiers, and even paramilitary fighters in the countryside. More than 13,000 were wounded. The IMRO lost 68 Vivadosh and Vividash and Konomatas, and hundreds were wounded. In the region of Greece, the Aegean Macedonia, 24 chetas and 10 local reconnaissance detachments were active. The aggregated membership of the bands were 380 Komashtats, led by 18 Vivadas, 22 commanders, and this is Terrorism, led by 18 Vivadas, 22 sub-commanders, 11 secretaries, and 25 couriers. 42 battles and 24 terrorist acts were performed. Greece casualties were 83 army officers, soldiers, and paramilitary fighters, with over 230 wounded. The IMRO lost 22 Vivadosh and Vivadash, Konomasta, and 48 were wounded. Thousands of locals were repressed by the Yugoslav and the Greek authorities. On suspicion on contacts by the revolutionary movement. So Vietnam syndrome before Vietnam was a thing. Well, Vietnam syndrome has always existed. Look at the Armenian, Assyrian, Kurdish. Bye, no more. I don't want to say the G word just yet, because it might appear here. The population of Pirna, Macedonia, was organized as a massive People's Home Guard. This militia was the only force which resisted the Greek army when the Greek dictator Papalogos launched the military campaign against the Presh district in 1925, before Metaxas really digged in. In 1934, the Bulgarian army confiscated 10,938 rifles, 637 pistols, and 47 machine guns. What? 7 mortars and 100,388 cartridges, only in the Prešliš and the Korostenadil districts alone. What? Terrorists? What? The most organized terrorists I've ever seen. Then again, but nah, bro, like, at least with the Soviets, they were funded and aided, but what? At the same time, a youth organization of the IMRO, the Macedonian Youth Secret Revolutionary Organization, was created. Oh my gosh. They don't make terrorist organizations like the news, huh? The statute of the Mistro, or the Macedonian Youth Secret Organization, was approved by the personal IMRO leader, Tudor Alexandrov. The aim for the Mistro was to Mysterio, bro. The aim for Mysterio, Mistro, sorry, I'm just playing, was to coordinate with the statute of the IMRO for the unification of all Macedonia as an autonomous unit within a future Balkan Federative Republic. This goes on for way too long. Oh my gosh. Anyway, I'm gonna leave it there. But if you want to check it out, look at the interwar period of the IMRO. Shit is crazy. I think there's a communist piece. I'll do the communist quickly and call out a day, okay? The 6th Congress of the Bulgarian Communist Federation under the leadership of the Bulgarian Communist Vasily Korolev and the 5th Congress of the Comintern, an adjutant of the Soviet foreign policy, held concurrently with Moscow in 1923, voted for the formation of an autonomous and independent Macedonia and Thrace. On the 24th of in 1924, the IMRO actually entered negotiations with the Macedonian Federative Organization and the Comintern about the collaboration between the communists and even the Macedonian movement, and the creation of a united Macedonia movement. The idea of a unified organization was supported by the Soviet Union under Joseph Stalin. So yes, there was still kind of international, but not super Khrushchev, give a case to everybody international. So socialism in one state is kind of a myth, okay? Which saw a chance of losing this well-developed revolutionary movement to spread revolutions to the Balkans and to destabilize the Balkan monarchies. Yeah, like that has a good impact on the world, right? World War One, but I guess you gotta tank the Balkans or else the Soviets won't exist. So the good and bad, I guess. Alexandrov defended the IMRO's independence and refused to conduct and even coordinate on even a partial basis with the communists. No agreement was reached except for a paper manifesto, or the so-called May Manifesto, on the 6th of May 1924. Anyway, I think that's time to go. But that's how communism got into... Oh, okay, okay. So they're shouting here. Kids are playing the fool, but almost there actually. So the manifesto, or the so-called May Manifesto, on the 6th of May 1924, in which the objectives of the Unified Macedonian Liberation Movement was presented: independence and unification of the partitioned and depatriated Macedonia, fighting all the neighboring Balkan monarchies, forming the Balkan Communist Federation, which were going to create Yugoslavia, and I think Tito was in it, but don't quote me on that, and cooperated with the Soviet Union. Failing to secure Alexandrov's cooperation, the Comintern decided to discredit him and publish contacts and even the manifesto on the 28th of July 1924. Wow, the day Archduke Franz Ferdinand got shot. Okay. In the Balkan Federation newspaper, the VMRO's leadership, Todor Alexandrov and Alexander Protogorevov, promptly denied through the Bulgarian press that they ever signed any agreement, claiming that the May Manifesto was a communist forgery. And anyway, that is how communism got into the Balkans and why it was actually held on in Macedonia far longer than the other Yugoslav republics. But anyway, guys, hope you enjoyed, hope you learned something. I'll see you next time, and peace out. This is going to be unedited. The first 15, I believe, are actual thing, and from here on out, you just listen to my beautiful voice. I did quote the first art one. There are the goals here, but like I said, World War One, the interwar period, just as crazy as World War Two and the Cold War. The interwar period is the stewing of the stew for the Cold War craziness that would come. But anyway, hope you enjoyed. I did a Grenada episode, so I might edit that. I might edit this first, since this is World War One day, and yeah, I'll call that a day. But hope you enjoyed. Really going good with it. I actually tried my hardest to stay slow on the Macedonian one, so if this is a bit fast, I'm sorry, but this is just add-on extra. I'm going to work out now. Hope you enjoyed. Hope you learned something. It might be 20 minutes, but it's worth it because I was on a roll. So, I mean, like, if you're on a roll, dude, you might as well finish it off, right? even I was like, you know what, I'm gonna finish right now, but the communist one kind of had me because people know the Yugoslav republics, but of course, Croatia had the Ustaše, which was fascist and actively fought against communism. The only unified leadership was Joseph Broz Tito. I'm done, so dog could bark whatever, okay? So Yugoslavia, Serbia had a monarchy, so Serbia didn't really want it either, but Serbia was at the seat of power. So letting go of that power, they kind of forced their hand. You let go of power or stuff, and by the time that happens, like everybody's been born in the Yugoslav Republic, okay? So by the time that happens, I'm just tired. Reading like 30 minutes non-stop is just a bit much, even though most of it was the interwar period, which was crazy, but I think it might come down to like 20 minutes tops, because I might edit like 5 minutes of the actual thing that I wanted to talk about, and this is like rambling for 15 minutes, of course from Wikipedia. But anyway, guys, hope you enjoyed, hope you learned something, and I'll see you next time. Remember, peace, unity through strength, not through bombing. Leave that for the other people. Oh wait, oh shit, that sounded wrong, dude. Oh. Act 1. The goal of the Internal Macedonian Andropolov Revolutionary Organization is to unite any and all dissatisfaction elements in Macedonia, and the Andropol Vignette without regarding of their nationality or even their political autonomy can be gained from these two regions. Step 2. The organization opposes any country's intentions to divide and conquer these two regions. Step 3. To achieve this goal, the organization aims to abolish the chauvinist propaganda and nationalistic disputes which split and weaken Macedonia. Anyway, guys, hope you enjoyed, learned something. Bye.
She go